patient relative properties?
Yes. So we have like we have, let's say, agents, right? And we have moral agents and we have moral patients. So I think that when we talk about human rights, right, we're talking about some sort of relative kind of concept, right? It's not like a fundamental thing. It's not an analytical concept. So
like a social construction?
Yes, exactly, yeah. So
yeah, okay. Yeah, I get it. So, yes, that's right. Force doctrine is the descriptor for how rights come to be, I believe, yes.
Okay, so based on your worldview, rights cannot exist, right, if there are no men, right, to enforce them.
No, that's not correct.
So what do you mean by that? So what do you mean by force doctrine? I mean, I really want to understand what you mean by that.
As long as there are men and women, right? Descriptively, women will always have to appeal to men for rights.
I mean, sure, but even if we're talking about a hypothetical society in which there are no men and only women, based on your assumption, the more powerful, physically powerful women will be the one enforcing the rights, right?
Well, they don't necessarily have to be more powerful physically. They just need to have some kind of monopoly on force.
Okay, so that's the problem. I think that's the problem. When you talk about monopoly of force, I think you're referring to some sort of physical construction, because you can still talk about monopoly of force even if there is no particular kind of like gender-based like distinction, right?
Yeah, you could, but descriptively, when it's intersexual, men always have the monopoly on force, always.
I mean, sure, but the problem here is that we're talking about how you call it. We're giving like a constructivist case of how these rights are derivated, right? We're not saying that these particular rights don't exist, but you're claiming that these particular rights exist because...
No, what you're doing is you're trying to change what the descriptive claim is to another claim for the purpose of an internal critique. That's fine, but just remember that I can make concessions to all of your conditionals, and it doesn't hurt my descriptive claim at all. So yes, if all men died of heart attacks tomorrow, then women would no longer have to appeal to men for their rights because there wouldn't be any men. That's true. I agree. So what?
Yeah, but it's ridiculous, right? Why should men be the one enforcing rights when primarily rights are not...
It's not a... Wait, stop. You see the word should? Not a should claim. It's not an ought claim. It's a descriptive claim. You're smuggling in morally loaded language now.
I mean, that's fine. The problem here is that I really don't...
No, what's not fine is that you people don't understand descriptive claims. It pisses me off because I've explained this 100 times as a descriptive claim, and every single time, for reasons I don't understand, you add oughts. An ought is a morally loaded claim. This is not a morally loaded claim. It's not saying that men ought to do anything. It's descriptively explaining where women get their rights from.
I mean, that's fine, but I mean, my question to you would be, under force doctrine, right? Does force doctrine, how you call it? Does it give us access to certain facts about, let's say, judgments, right? Because I believe that when we talk about, let's say,
it gives us access to the certain fact of the descriptor.
You know, it doesn't, because we're talking about.
It does.
We're talking about how particular, like we're talking about legitimate authority, right, and how it governs external actions, not internal beliefs.
Legitimate authority comes from people who allow themselves to be ruled if they have a monopoly on force.
That's fine, but you're forcing a doctrine, so therefore you are trespassing.
I'm not forcing a doctrine.
Yeah, but yes,
I'm forcing a doctrine.
Yeah, but that's what force doctrine is, though. You're forcing something, though. Like that's, yeah, you're claiming that men are the enforcers, right?
Yeah, that doesn't mean that they're utilizing force for anything, though. Or force, or never mind, sorry. It does mean they're utilizing force for something, but it doesn't mean that they're forcing you to do anything.
That's not my point, though. I'm talking about...
Yeah, but that's my point. Then you're not engaging with what force doctrine is. You're engaging with something else.
I think we have a very different understanding of what legitimate authority is, right? You believe that legitimate authority, right, is intrinsically...
Well, let's start with legitimate. What makes something legitimate?
Yeah, legitimate means it's justified, right? In my worldview, just
No,
means justified.
I don't think so. I don't think legitimate means justified.
What do you think it means, in your view?
Well, in this context, when you're saying legitimate, as in legitimate authority, I think that you're just talking about consensus. I think it's just another word for consensus. Consensus authority and legitimate authority would mean the same thing in this context, right?
Yeah, but I think the point is that I am coming from a point where I'm saying, I'm giving like the liberal like argument, right, that I believe that conscience is inviolable. So I think that like when you talk about conscience, right?
Well, I'm glad that you think that.
Yes. And
so what?
Yeah, because I am obviously presupposing that every single individual has a conscience, right? And if you're claiming that legitimate authority governs external actions, then that will be an internal defeater of the claim.
Yeah, but the problem is you're equivocating, which is very, very common to do. When you're using the term legitimate here, you actually just mean consensus authority.
I mean, how do we arrive to the consensus, though?
Well, it depends. You can arrive to a consensus many ways.
Yeah, but the problem here is that primarily you're talking about coercion, right? Because we're talking about
which requires and what's usually a primary edict of coercion, force, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, and so if you're talking about, let's say, a degree of, let's say, responsibility, right? Coercion is going to undermine accountability to every single degree. I don't think there's any modality in which coercion can grant accountability. At least you agree with that.
Okay. Look, this is an interesting discussion, and I actually want to have more of it, but I'm going to bring some other ops up because otherwise we're going to get too deep into the Phil rabbit hole, which I'm happy to do, but let's do it on a different line, and we'll have a further discussion. Sound fair?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm definitely, you can follow me back, and I'll definitely see into that. And yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Have a good day, dude. Thanks for calling in. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
See ya. All right.